You found Stryker, and this is my series called What's It Like, where I take a look at a game and I tell you what I tell you what it's like. I mean, yeah, you see, it's funny. Basically it's my first impression of a game, but I like to think it's a little more in depth than that. I put some time into it, and I wanted to let you guys know what Star Trek Online is all about, so that if it's worthy of your time to download, because it is a free to play MMORPG. So, yep, massively multiplayer, set in the Star Trek Online universe, originally published by Atari Interactive, but after a year and a half, they kind of backed out, and Perfect World Entertainment came in and bought Cryptic Studios for $50 million, and now they're continuing the operation. And Perfect World is actually in a pretty good place. They've got 14 online games going at the moment, and so let's get right into it. It's kind of cool because it shows you your character, and it shows the other characters that you have whenever you, when you're looking at your characters on the screen. So, like, that's the ship that I currently am using for this Romulan, and that's the captain I'm spinning around, and those are her crew. This is the Die White People Klingon vessel, because they pretty much kill everybody that's white in the Federation. And then the unfortunately named USS Korea, that was the one given to me. I haven't changed it yet, but that's my main account. So let's see what it's like to choose a faction. You've got Starfleet, you've got Romulan, and of course you've got the Klingons. So the character creation is actually pretty robust. It's what Cryptic Studios has been known for in its other games. I mean, you obviously have humans, but you've got the Andorians. You've got basically every race that you've ever seen in Star Trek, past and future to some degree. It all depends on, whether or not we're still friends with them, and some might be the enemies. But yeah, I mean, you got Beta Zeds. You literally can be whatever you want. You can change their gender, you can be Ferengis, you can change the height. I don't know why the Packlids always make their way into these games, but they are. And there's even probably going to be a couple of races. Well, some might be new, some are mentioned, but and yeah, you can be Vulcan, and there's always an alien option. That basically means you can use all the tools available to you to create your own alien race. Each faction will let you do that, and you can basically combine any number of certain things to create your own alien race, essentially. Romulans are only the Romulan race. They are their own faction. They have their own story. Klingons are the opposers for the game, and they've thrown in a number of other races like the Gorn and the Nausicaans, and a couple others that you may remember from the series or not, but these are basically your enemies of the game, or they can be your allies depending on what you choose. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do, a lot of different characters, and some can be bought. Some you can actually pay real money for. But and this is just a very quick glimpse at the character creation. There's tons of sliders. You literally can adjust everything you want, but there are like presets. You can make it simple on yourself and just get your character going, or you can go really in depth. So this is the galaxy map. This is where you kind of first start. You'll see planets, you'll see other players nearby. And on this screen, you can't be attacked. This is basically like your world map. We're going to take a look at the area map itself. So this is the entire Milky Way galaxy. As you can see, there's the Alpha Quadrant there. It's a pretty good size. Deep Space Nine is kind of way back there on the left. This is the Beta Quadrant. This is where we are now. This is where most of the stuff is going to take place. And the Delta Quadrant, of course, was added with one of the expansion packs, where you actually got the voice actors for Tuvok and the Doctor. I think Neelix is there, Kim, and some others. But you can see lots of locations, lots of stuff to do, And of course, the big thing about Star Trek Online is the ship combat. It is freaking glorious. It is well defined. It has lots of nuances. It has ways to improve shields and hull and restoration stuff. It's got a number of quick powers that you can use and activate and charge up and improve. And it's a sight to behold when you have, especially later, and you get some of the higher tier ships, and you've got, 4 to 6 phaser banks opening up on enemies, photon torpedoes, you name it. If you've seen it, all the sound effects are incredibly realistic. Don't expect too much from your starting ship. But yeah, when you get like a higher tier ship like the Enterprise C here, I mean, you have 6 phaser banks, and if you angle your ship right, you can nearly get all 6 of them firing on an enemy at one time. Double photon torpedoes, and you can swap some of those out. If you want to have all phaser banks, you can do that. If you want to have 3 photon torpedoes facing you, you can do that. The ground combat hasn't really seen as much love. It's there. A lot of people say it's crap, it sucks, it blows. It's just, it's there. It's a Star Trek game. It's there to make things a little bit different so that you're not always fighting in a ship. Sure, everybody comes for the ship combat, but part of the fun is beaming down to a planet, rescuing people and taking them out, and you always have your crew officers with you, so it really does help. You're not by yourself. Ships and customization, and yeah, it's a Z.
Our war efforts. Good work.
So this is how it works. When you get to be Lieutenant Commander, which is usually level 10 for most everybody, then you get access to your Tier 2 starship. Now, they give you 1 credit that you can use, so you don't have to buy anything. And they usually give you maybe 6 choices. It kind of depends on the tier. Usually half of them are... See, the little blue chip, that means I can use my requisition thing and actually get it for free. The ones in red mean I have to get the actual Zen in order to buy it. But as you can see, here it is. Here's the movie version of the Enterprise. I can get that, and that's free. And then you also have different variants. And the variants come into play because, well, you can swap out all their parts and basically create your own ship. As you can see, this is the one I'd have to pay for. It doesn't cost too much, but it does have a few unique things to it. I think did it have an extra bridge officer? Sometimes they'll have an extra bridge officer. Sometimes they'll have extra slots for science or technology that you can put in the ships that you end up buying. And then as you can see, there's another escort. It's a little bit smaller. For the most part, they're all on par with each other. They have the same fore and aft weapons. And this is a science vessel. This is also one that I could grab for free. But in this Tier 2, each one has a free version, then they also have a paid version. And that basically, like I said, it adds an extra officer sometimes, an extra equipment slot. And the other 2 you'd have to pay for, but they're both kind of the same. And so let's take a look at... Well, like I said, this is the cruiser. Oh yeah, with the cruiser refit, there's also the Executor. The Executor class, which is an additional skin that comes with it. So you gotta look at it sometimes and make sure you know what you're getting. Then yeah, they're all divided up by other things. Let's take a quick look at the Tier 3. As you can see, there's the Enterprise B. You have to spend $10 to buy that. You won't get a free chip for that. And then the bigger science vessel, this is one you get for free. And the Tier 4, that's where the Galaxy class starship comes in. The Voyager science vessel will come in. And also the Defiant. So that's when you'll be able to grab those. Just to give you kind of a quick idea. And that's the Galaxy. So then there's customization, which is surprisingly deep and yet kind of what you would expect. So I got the refit version of this, which comes with the Constitution, which is the movie version of the Enterprise. Then it also comes with the Excalibur class, and then I got the Executor class for actually buying this ship at the time. So as you can see, they're all different, and with customization, you can swap out all these parts with each other. The saucers, the nacelles, and each ship also has a different skin. So see, I can make it look kind of like the other versions, but still retain the version that I have. And oftentimes they'll always have a movie version of the skin, so you can always make it look exactly like the movie if you so wish. Then they got the shading, where it's just different shaders. You can imagine it like tattoos for your ship. You know, sometimes they're a little bit more blatant, like a tattoo like these, and sometimes they're just, you know, they accentuate certain lines or curves of your ship. But you can put these in all the different parts, and then you can, like I said, this is where you can swap out parts. So you can kind of see I'm picking the different versions of the nacelles, and even though, well, this is actually the pylons themselves, not the nacelles, so the location of them are all different. Same thing with the neck. You know, you can all see this happen in real time, essentially, obviously. But you can try out different parts, and you can basically make a starship that looks similar and recognizable as being a version of the Enterprise, or you can make something completely different sometimes. It all depends on what fuselage and engines and saucer sections that you all use, and in what combination. So it's fairly robust. It's not insane, but it's definitely cool for console users that really haven't had much of a chance. And yeah, there's even bridges. This is where you can, like, buy the original TOS bridge and then put it on your thing. You get a few that are free, but there's some that are paid for, like the Defiant. You have to buy the Defiant bridge, and others. So here's Commander Bend Over Reach Around Sisko. So yeah, he's able to get the Enterprise B. I actually bought this for $10. It was the only way to get it. There's the Shoemaker Levy spacecraft of mine. I named it myself. And here's Sisko. He's a Trill. I always imagined that he has the spirit of Sisko from Deep Space Nine on him. As you can see, you got different weapons, and you got the shields and stuff. You can see some of his stats, a little bit of a close-up. You can alter your character at any time when you go to the tailor. You can alter any of your characters, honestly, at any time, as long as you don't put items on them that cost money. That means they come from another pack. You can certainly buy those things outright, but you know, you don't have to. So there's a lot of customization. You got a number of inventory. You got officers that you can commission. You've got space skills. You've got ground skills. You've got different traits. These are all just for your captain. You don't have to worry about all your crew. Your crew have their own things, but I mean, you know, increasing your projectile weapons, advanced defensive maneuvering, targeting, you know, shields, hull repair, all those kind of things are in there. When it comes to ground combat, obviously you can amplify your shields or your weapons. Traits are like limited. They give you bonuses toward your group, and they work on both ground and in space. So they're handy. They're there as well. And then you got specializations, and I really haven't even gotten into these yet, and I put like 20 hours probably into Starfleet alone. And you know, then you got your away team. You can set your away team ahead of time, and you can see all the skills for your crew members as well. And all these really tie into a great package. And that's, you weren't supposed to see that. That's one of my crew members. There's my Borg. Obviously, she's human from the waist down, and apparently just the upper chest and up. There's my Tellarite officer, and then you saw my Vulcan. But yeah, all this put together, you can create a pretty devastating ship. You know, when you start combining phasers and disruptor weapons and twin cannons, twin phaser banks, you know, multiple different kinds of photon torpedoes, quantum torpedoes. It's fun, it's awesome, it's amazing, it's what this game is geared toward. So these are locations and details. So, if you ever wanted to go to the Vulcan planet, you can, and it's movie accurate. You can jump in the Pool of Serenity, look at the Live Long and Prosper plaque, take a look at statue of Surok, the prophet of the Vulcans, where everything's based upon, and you can basically just phaser the crap out of his face. Alright there, Commander. Jeez, hold it on! And you can go to Risa, that's right, the pleasure planet where all the famous captains go. Cisco and Picard and Lita. Well, she's gone there. She's not obviously whatever you call it. You can go to the Gorn planet. You got the Orion slave girls, and not only are they in the game, you can also be one and start a career. And then you got scars. You can actually place a scar or tattoo anywhere on the face. You can slide it around. It's pretty cool. Not as robust as the PC version, of course, but it's just neat to be able to do this on a console. And then you have Deep Space Nine. I mean, there's other locations as well, but I mean, the attention to detail is great. I mean, the Bajoran wormhole is in the background. You know, these are all real players that have their own starships. I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, it's not NPCs, it's not computer generated to make it feel like, you know, people are there. It's actual people. All the details are there. The ships are all one-to-one on scale, so you can see how they relate to each other and what ships are ginormous compared to the starting ships. It's all very cool. And lady, get out of my way. You're interrupting my cinematic shot of Deep Space Nine. You can go to Quark's bar. You can find Morn. You can go to Benjamin and find his friggin' little baseball on the table. It's all really cool and detailed. And we have the campaigns. So, the whole game, Star Trek Online, is basically about the war between the faction of the Federation and the Klingon faction. So, everything is pretty much revolved around that. So, if you start off as a Starfleet character, you're gonna start at Starfleet Academy, and lo and behold, even though you're a cadet, you end up being in charge of your own starship. That's just kinda how it is. And you're gonna be taking out the Klingons in about 20 missions. Some of the cool stuff about it is that even though that there is space combat, obviously, and there's on-ground combat, they do mix things up by adding little strategic things inside. Like in this case, I need to concoct a specific drink with the right ingredients and give it to this lady so that she can calm her nerves down after an alien attack and sell me some power converters. I know, just roll with it. It's an RPG, right? So there's other little things like this, like taking the power flow and putting it through a couple different relays in the right kind of sequence. And there's other things where you're trying to concoct a hypo spray that's going to deliver the right amount of medicine and balance out the pH of blah 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 technobabble. And so they try to make it more than just about shooting and whatnot. They try to put the science into the science fiction, and they do a pretty commendable job, I think. A lot of technobabble and stuff that kind of works, but it's going to be frustrating. Yeah, and then sometimes you realize you forgot the goddamn drink on the counter because the bartender stands right next to it the whole time. So there's some frustrating stuff. But the Klingon campaign, this is my Klingon, Korg, Pokerfaster, Sorehole. So that's my Klingon. And if you were playing just on PC originally, you had to play to level 25 as a Starfleet officer, and then you would be able to create a Klingon character, but he would stay at 25 himself. But now, with the Legacy of Romulus, the first expansion to the game, now they have a full campaign for the Klingons, so you can start right from the start of your adventure as the Klingons and the other races that you saw earlier. So, yeah, you become first officer pretty quick, and then before you know it, you realize your captain is kind of an a-hole, so you must defeat your own master and commander, and before you know it, you've got your own little battleship. Or, I mean, your own, bird of prey. And so the Klingons, you know, they're the other faction, of course, in this two-faction war. So they got some pretty cool stuff. They're trying to juggle a lot of things and get things in their favor, and there's other Klingons that don't agree with it. So, yeah, it's a pretty fun faction. And, you know, you got quite a few missions as content with them as well to start off your adventure. And it's pretty fun destroying, you know, your standard starships, and there's a lot of details. You can finally, you know, walk around some of these environments. And, of course, you always got cameos.
How may I assist you?
Like good old Worf. Yep, that's right. Even Worf shows up. He's just standing outside the first city. So it's always nice. They got other longtime Star Trek veterans that lend their voices every once in a while. But it definitely was nice to see Worf for a little while. And it really is nicely designed, too. The homeworlds of some of these places, you know, gamers have never really seen in 3D. We're talking about, you know, back in the old Next Generation days where everything was pretty much a matte painting, so it's really nice to see some of these places fully realized. And then we have the Romulans. The Romulans, until recent, didn't really get much of a... Well, it was that the first expansion is when they finally got a full-fledged starting point for their campaign. On PC, you just kind of started in the middle of the adventure, like season 7 or update 7 is when all of a sudden they just happen to have new Romulus. You know, it shows up. But now you actually get to play the events through the eyes of a person that basically just a lonely farmer on one of the colonies that gets attacked by the Tal Shiar, and before you know it, you get sucked up into this whole thing and you become a captain of a ship, and now you're trying to fight the Tal Shiar and bring back peace to the Romulans. And things just get thicker and thicker, and you go through 7 missions like this, and you get up to about level 10. And once you get to level 10, you basically get a choice whether you want to join the Federation or the Klingons. And but yeah, the Romulans, you know, they have their own kind of agendas, but you still got content for them. Even though you are playing some of the same missions that the Federation and the Romulans have, you know, you're looking at, they have their own content up until about level 35, and then you have to grind a little bit in order to get to level 50 for them to have, to let them go back to some of their original stories. But the writing gets much better at this level 50 time, but they also can do a lot of the same missions that the Klingons and Federation can do as well. But they're definitely fairly a little bit more unique, and you can also create your own alien race.
We will.
But pretty much Romulans are Romulans, and they kind of stick to their own. But yeah, it's a great faction to play as well. But yeah, once you get to like level 10, that's usually when you can pick out your first ship for all the factions, or your second ship, your tier 2 ship, and you basically get to choose also at this point between Starfleet and the Klingon Empire. What this ends up doing is it allows you to gain access to not only the person's homeworld that you pick, but also all of their starships. So if your friends are mostly playing Starfleet, if you pick Starfleet, that means you'll have access to, obviously, the Starbase and the Sol system, and you'll have access to other starships for Starfleet, but you'll also still have access to the Romulan ships. Same thing with the Klingons. So it allows you to kind of play with your friends, but you're still your own faction, and later on in the game, toward the higher levels, you'll have your own content again. But yeah, so it's pretty fun. And then we have the cash shop, something I don't normally talk about. So, yep, there's a cash shop. It's an MMO RPG, so this is what you got. You can spend real money and turn it into a currency. You can also earn dilithium during certain events and during the campaign, and also turn that essentially into the Zen, or the gold, or whatever you want to call it, that you can do in order to buy stuff. You can get a lifetime subscription, which is $250. It goes on sale. And this is mostly where you find, you know, individual ships. You find collections of ships. Yes, there's a key that you need to buy, because sometimes you'll get a locked box, and the only way to get that is to pay for it and get a key, and then you'll get certain items. There's also costume collections. Like I said, there's different ship collections, a Deep Space Nine pack where you can get a couple of extra bridges and some bridge officers that are unique to that. Yeah, pretty much everything that's popular is the stuff that is going to be gated away, like the uniforms for Enterprise. It doesn't really fit into the timeline of whatever the game's era that's showing you, so that becomes an extra. Or if you want, like I said, there's a lot of Klingon packs and whatnot, and these they're reasonable, $20 for this, for $80 for a pack of like 3, and there's also individual ships. You can pretty much buy all the individual ships in the game for currency, and you'll notice, like, when you get to a new tier, a lot of times the favorite ship that you want, like if it's the Voyager ship or the Enterprise D or the Enterprise B, those are going to be the ones where you have to pay real money in order to get. So yeah, they lock away, the fans' favorite kind of stuff. And there's some items you can get. And of course, there's the standard stuff, like more bridge officers slots, more inventory slots, more bank slots, and it's pretty reasonable. A couple of dollars for some of these, like $2.50, which isn't too bad. And of course, appearances is the name of the game. You can look like 7 of 9 for $5.50. Troy is in here as well, and this is where all the TV series outfits come from, like Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You can look like the original series Romulans, the uniforms from All Good Things, the original series, of course, the motion picture, just Neelix's clothing. All this kind of stuff is found here. It's all optional. You don't need to buy it, but if you want to make it look like your favorite TV show, it's right here. And then after your standard appearance packs, then you got the personal stuff, to where you can have like a Borg bridge officer. You can't find this in the game. You can't be awarded it in any way. You got to spend like $4 on it. And then of course there's bridge officer slots. There's little pets like exocomp companions, hordas. It's all Star Trek related. And you also got new characters as well, like the cat-like race. You can actually pick those and create a character like that, which is normally not available. You got the join trills, which actually have their own certain powers to them. You can be a Klingon for the Federation. You normally can't do that. You can't pick a Klingon for that. The Coelacanth. You've got, you got all the different things that it doesn't normally let you pick. But don't forget the pets and other characters. And now for my final thoughts. Jerry, knock it off! So, I know the game hasn't really scored that well. You'll see a lot of kind of above average reviews, but you gotta remember, it's a licensed property, so playing in the property's world is the appealing part. I mean, these are my crew members. I've literally altered each one of them individually. I gave myself a big-breasted Vulcan, put a tight shirt on here. Here's my Tellarite security guard. I put the scar on his face. I've altered them. I've created them. I got my own Borg officer. I had to pay like $4.50 for her, but I mean, I put her in a mini skirt, gave her purple hair. These are characters that I created. They're characters that they're the ones that talk to me. I can change their names if I wanted to. I beam down to ships and star bases with them. They're my crew members. This is a different character, of course. I've altered their clothing. It's my own thing. I can create a bio for them. It's really about playing in the world of Star Trek and creating your own stories, along with. And of course, there's multiplayer. I mean, there's other players here. It's an MMO, for God's sake. You can do fleet stuff. You can do battles. You can team up with friends. There's just a wealth of content here. And there's been like 3 expansions. Lots of updates. There's a lot of stuff here, and I mean, come on, it's a free game. If you're a Star Trek fan, then you're absolutely going to love exploring this world.